Hey, good morning. This is Abeer. I'm a philosopher, co-founder at Numinous Realm, coming at you from Times Square. And I want to talk about the relationship between commerce and spirituality, or being materially ambitious and spiritually curious. I think for a lot of people, this seems like something that is at odds with each other, but the reality is they're all part of the same cosmos that we live in, right? There's this sense of a split between the material world and the spiritual world, and that if you're cultivating spirituality, right, prayer, meditation, this sort of thing, that it doesn't seem to connect with somebody who's out here in the physical world, building something, engineering something, creating a business that serves a lot of people. I just don't think that this is the case across the board, right? In Hinduism, you have a sense of the karma yogi, right? This is a big part of the Bhagavad Gita as well, where the way you serve is through the work that you do, right? And ultimately, no business can succeed unless it is serving people who are voluntarily giving their money for that thing, right? So automatically, if you want to be of service, creating a structured, organized business that is pulling in revenue, which is able to support the infrastructure and support the further development of it, that is an ultimate form of service, right? So you have karma yoga in Hinduism. Another thing is, in the Christian tradition, you have a sense of the Methodists, right? The Methodists was a Protestant movement who were really focused on good works, doing that. It's not just enough to feel like you've been saved by Christ, or that's also great, right? But that to actually do good things in the world, serve, again, be of service, right? Help perhaps the needy or the poor. Again, every business is really supporting somebody who has ultimately a need. Otherwise, there wouldn't be this voluntary exchange. Now, we can be very judgmental about certain needs over others. Like, oh, it's good if you just want to eat food, but if you want nice food, that is like somehow suddenly like I'm judging that, right? But we live in a postmodern era. Like that, in some ways, we're trying to get past the postmodern, but we can't deny that we live in a world where there's so many different opinions, and that it's hard for me to say my opinion is better than yours. Now, we are trying to get past that relativism, and that's a topic, we can also get into. We look into that in terms of archetypes and kind of integral philosophy, but maybe we can just, hold that aside for a moment. At first, let's just admit that it's difficult for there to be a universal sense of like, I'm going to judge you because you like to buy clothes, but I like to, go to the movies, and that's somehow better, right? So you have the Hindu tradition, the Christian tradition, even in things like Islam, one is sort of compelled to give a percentage of what you are earning back to the spiritual community or to society. So the more one is cultivating in terms of money, the more you're able to give, right? And so that's where we start to see that spiritual curiosity and material ambition are not at odds. Now let's dive right into the integration, this new era of like integral philosophy or transpersonal psychology that's giving us stronger ideas of this, right? You have this sense of an archetype. Let's say the archetype of Jupiter, right? It's a planet. It's also a specific kind of archetype that can show up as a spiritual feeling, right? Jupiter is very expansive, it's large, it's benevolent. That same archetype we see expressed in the world through somebody who's maybe going into philosophy, going into religion, going into higher studies, getting a PhD. But Jupiter is also large in a material sense, right? It's like going to Costco and having your eyes pop out because the boxes are so large, right? Or maybe a certain aesthetic like Donald Trump's, house, which is very all filled with gold and that kind of elevated feeling, right? Some may say it's too much or what have you. And so Jupiter as an archetype has both a spiritual side and a material side. And from a cosmic perspective, right? The sense that the whole cosmos came from nothing, right? At the start, there was nothing. Then there was a big bang, and then energy turned into matter, and all of that slowly cooled into who we are, right? So it's very difficult for anyone to have an ultimate position that spirit is superior to matter, or that matter is superior to spirit, right? In my own life, in my own journey as a philosopher, as an entrepreneur, I've been somehow like hated on or, judged by hippies and yuppies, both. The hippies are like, yeah, you want to take philosophical knowledge, but you don't want to create anything material out of it. You don't want to, God forbid you create a business which is basically infrastructure to serve people in a systematic way. That's all that a business is. There's nothing other than that. It's a piece of paper you sign with regards to the government, which gives you a legal structure. And then at that point, you're just serving as many people as you can, right? So there's this dialogue about anybody in business is somehow an evil person. They're just being of service, right? We all know people who are in spirituality, people who are getting PhDs, who are some of the worst people I've ever met. So I think that's a big part of the philosophical position that I want to take. And again, it's really about being a curious human in the cosmos, about, being able to have dialogue and breaking past all of these structures from the past about, oh, such and such philosopher has said this and I read this book, that's why I'm a philosopher, right? So we're looking at an age where it's not about are you a banker or are you a meditator. It's about who are you really in the mix of all of that, right? I think the modern art world is doing a great job of that, because a lot of times I have friends who say, yo, Abeer, like I don't understand art. Some dude is just like spray painting or dropping some paint on a canvas. How is that artistic? But the thing about art today is that it's not just about the thing itself. It's not just about the material creation. It's about the intention of the artist, the blending of who they were, what they're trying to create, that specific moment in time, right? And so when it comes to your own life, what does this mean for you? I would say you should be both spiritually curious and materially ambitious. Don't think that, oh, just because I'm a meditator, I meditate or I pray, that somehow makes me superior to somebody who is sweeping the street or doing accounting books or, building a car, right? On the other side, just because you have a lot of money, that doesn't, or you see yourself as a middle class, middle upper class, whatever it is, that doesn't suddenly mean that you are superior in any way to someone who's just living a spiritual life. And what brings this all into context is the fact that we're all gonna die. Literally, I'm standing here talking to you with like moments of my life. I'm literally gonna die. This whole planet is gonna be incinerated, right? It's all gonna dissolve into the sun, right? And so the thing is, like, how do you make the most of life? I think that's where this comes down to. That's what is underneath that sense of spiritual curiosity plus material ambition, is like, what does it mean to live a good life? Is it the person who's creating the material structure that's serving people, paying taxes, etc., employing people? Or is it the person who is holding it down on the spiritual, psychological side, cultivating a sort of aura, a presence, whatever it is, right? For us at Numinous Realm, we are a company, a project, but it's also a philosophical position, right? This organization exists to help bring out this emerging philosophical stance in a more systematic way, right? Just like Subway does it for sandwiches. And so I think, we're going to have more ads, more ways for people to see this kind of work rolling out. And so I just wanted to get ahead of that a little bit and sketch out some of the initial positions. The fact that there is the religious traditions, which have spirituality and spirit. There are the fact that matter and spirit itself, from a cosmic perspective, are both part of the same unitive fabric. The sense of archetypes, that someone may have a sense of Jupiter, but it can show up in a spiritual or a material way, right? These are ways that it sort of gives you freedom, and it gives you choice to figure out what a meaningful life means to you, right? You may end up in any one of these camps. The point is not to end up in a moral morass in the middle where you have no position. It's fine to have a position, but I think it's good to be honest that being overly dogmatic about one's own position is playing the small game, right? It's just having a narrow view on what's actually possible in life. So glad to take a moment out of my day and just like share this with you from Times Square. And I hope you have an awesome time. And let me know in the comments. We want to know more about what you think about this. And subscribe, and we'll see you later. Bye.